Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Pan Future Society podcast. I am your host, Sean, and today is Thursday, November 3rd, 2016. Yes, I'm recording this show a little bit early this week. I am going to be gone for the weekend, and I figured I could fit a show in quickly and get that out to you so you don't have to go without this week. And I hope everything is good where you are. It's a nice, sunny early November day here. Trees are turning and it looks lovely. It is fall here. If you're listening in the southern hemisphere, drop me an email. Let me know how the spring is shaping up for you. If this is your first time tuning into the show, or if you've listened to a few, I don't give a lot of introductions, but maybe a little bit of rehash of why I do this would be useful. Some people might wonder why we need another science podcast, or maybe you tune in and you think, boy, this guy doesn't know anything. Well, that's kind of the point. This show is a science based, long term thinking, technology loving show for people who don't know that they should be listening to science based shows. Um, if you work in nanotechnology right now, you're probably not going to be interested to hear what I say about nanotechnology, but I would probably be interested in interviewing you. Um, if you are an economist who is trying to predict what the world economy will be like in 20 years, again, I don't have anything to add to what you already know, but again, I'd probably like to interview you. So, really, this is a ground level entryway for science, technology, futurism, long term thinking, and the implications for our society and civilization. So that's just a recap of why this podcast exists. All right. And now on to your news of the moment. In the news this week, a more accurate world map wins a prestigious Japanese design award. This map, created by Hajime Narukawa at Keio University's Graduate School of Media and Governance in Tokyo, won the grand prize from Japan's Good Design Award. It beat out over 1,000 other entries in a variety of categories. Now, the significance of this it is, well, manyfold, I guess. Maps of the world are very difficult to make, despite the amount of time that we've actually been making maps. It's very difficult to flatten the three-dimensional Earth into a two-dimensional rectangle of some kind and have it reflect reality. Most of us are very familiar with the Mercator projection. That's the map that probably most of us had hanging on our grade school classroom wall. At the time, the Mercator projection first came about in the year 1569. So maps really haven't changed a lot since then, at least in terms of our flat world maps. And there were some good things about it. It was accurate in terms of the shapes of things, but one of the big problems with the Mercator projection is that it skews the sizes of things as you get farther from the equator. That is, things look much larger than they're supposed to be. If you look at a Mercator map, Antarctica looks enormous, Greenland looks huge, and they are not actually that big. And as you get close to the equator, a place like the continent of Africa looks much smaller than it actually is. This new map, called the orthograph, has continents that are not lined up in straight lines. You could sort of look at it as being, if you take the globe and kind of divide it into triangles and then flatten out all those triangles, um, you get this map, and it looks a little odd if you're not if you're comfortable and very familiar with the Mercator type maps. But you can see a far better representation of how large things are. Antarctica is not enormous. Africa is not apparently tiny. And this bit of news brought to mind our perception of the world and our place in the world, and how much of it is actually skewed by what we learn the world looks like. The Mercator map being kind of skewed proportionally in favor of Europe and North America. The globe and other maps having North America at the top. What if you turned it upside down? Take a map and turn it upside down and just contemplate that for a while. And look at how insignificant the borders are, and just look at the shapes of the continents. There is also a website called thetruesize.com, and I'll link to that in the show notes. It allows you to take a country. You can grab, India or Ghana or Canada, and you can drag the outline of that country all over a map of a typical Mercator style map, and it gives you an accurate picture of how big these countries actually are. As you shift them toward the poles, they skew and grow bigger, or toward the equator, they get smaller. So if you drag, the United States on top of Africa, you actually see how much smaller the U.S. is compared to Africa. And in fact, I believe the default setting for the website centers you on Africa, with India, the United States, and China on Africa, and you see that Africa is larger than all three of those put together. So it's a good thing to check out, and just to contemplate how you think of the world, how you think of your place in the world based on where you were born. Is that view skewed by the maps you looked at when you were a kid? So have a look at that stuff online and give it some thought. And now, it came from outer space. Yeah, I think that's still fun. All right, so this week's space news. NASA's new warning system has spotted an incoming asteroid earlier than we ever have before. The asteroid, officially named 2016 UR36, was first detected on October 25th by a telescope in Hawaii. This data was uploaded to NASA's new early warning system called Scout, and within 10 minutes, the software had projected potential flight paths for this asteroid, some of those intersecting with the Earth. The software then alerted 3 other telescopes to perform follow-up observations and narrow down the rock's trajectory, and within several hours, they had determined that this would pass fairly closely. That was, I think, just a few days ago, but it would not hit us. Apparently, since we're still here, they were right. This asteroid passed a little bit farther than the distance to the moon. They also determined that this asteroid was between 5 and 25 meters across. What's new about this is that this gave us 5 days of notice, and that's so far we can't yet move asteroids out of the way or deflect them in some way. But the first problem to solve is finding them all and knowing where they're going. For a comparison, a meteor exploded over the Nubian Desert in Sudan in 2008. That one was spotted 19 hours before its intersection, and it was determined to be a threat only 12 hours before. And you may remember only a few years ago, in February 2013, a 20-meter meteor exploded over Chelyabinsk in Russia, and there was no notice of this at all. Nobody spotted it before it entered the atmosphere. The Scout software is intended to speed up the confirmation process for the asteroids that we do see and to determine their threat level. NASA has been detecting a lot of asteroids, about 5 a night, and there are now more than 15,000 near Earth objects on file that could potentially be on collision paths with Earth. The Scout software should help us narrow this down, and its testing phase. This asteroid was the first case study that Scout performed. In addition to Scout, NASA also has the Sentry program. Scout is looking for small objects that are already close to the Earth, and Sentry is looking for objects big enough to do serious damage to entire cities, near Earth objects that are larger than 140 meters. So NASA has two systems in place. The Sentry system has a list of 655 near-Earth objects that are potentially very dangerous to us. So this is a great first step in detecting all these asteroids. It's something we definitely need to do. Now the next step, obviously, is to figure out our technology so that we can actually do something about the ones that are on a collision course. And the sooner we detect them, the better, because that gives us more time to do something about it. All right, that is your news of the moment. All right, in this week's main segment, continuing on our theme from last week of the future of work. What is a job? We can define a job as something we get paid to do. We do it so we have money, so we can buy things and at least get what we need to survive. There has always been work, but there haven't always been jobs. The NPR show Planet Money did a show on the first job, and I highly recommend that you listen to it. I will link to it in the show notes. The notion of a job as the thing you were supposed to do has been with us for a long time, but now just over the horizon is new technology that will not only change what kind of jobs will need to be done, but whether humans do them at all. This week we'll look at where jobs for actual humans might be headed. From Business Insider, the World Economic Forum claims that the world is on the cusp of a fourth industrial revolution caused by the rise of robots and artificial intelligence. WEF estimates that these technologies could potentially put 5 million people out of work by 2020. That's only 4 years from now. A joint study by Citi and Oxford, Citibank, CITI, and Oxford University earlier this year estimated that an incredible 77% of jobs in China could be at risk of automation, while the figure stands at 57% of jobs across the OECD. Foxconn, Walmart, and the U.S. Department of Defense, three of the world's top 10 employers, have also already begun replacing manufacturing, warehouse, and combat roles with robots. There probably always will be some people doing various jobs, but if even one quarter of jobs disappear across all industries, I think that is a realistic number. That is an enormous amount of jobs. And if your whole industry is changing, you might not be able to leave one company for another doing the same job. Right now, if you work at a McDonald's and then they close or you get fired, whatever, you can go across the street to Wendy's. Or if you work at Walmart and they cut back, you can go work at Target. It's essentially the same job in a different company. If you're a teacher and you teach in Nebraska, you can probably go teach in California. Same industry. But if your industry has been turned upside down by robotics and AI, that kind of movement won't be possible. However, at every turn in the jobs world where some are lost, new jobs come into existence. Certainly, programming, engineering, and robotics will be essential. Someone has to make and maintain all the machines and programs. And as has been true in the past, I think jobs that can't be outsourced will also be done by humans. Fixing a furnace or a washing machine, car repair, these sorts of things. It's not so much that a robot couldn't do it, it's more, I think, a difficulty in getting the robot to the repair. I don't happen to have a furnace now where I live in Oregon, but the one I had in Denver was kind of hard to get to, and I can't imagine getting a robot in there to do anything, at least not one that's generalized enough to fix any furnace in any type of furnace and get to every type of home. I can see more and more technology at hand to help the repair people, though, but I think certain kinds of jobs like that will always need a human, at least until very humanoid robots who can do anything that we can do come into existence. But I think for the near future, robots will still be fairly specialized. And if you do have them in the home, complicated repair of machinery is probably not going to be one of their specialties. Data mining, collection, and analysis is huge now, and it will only continue to get bigger. But what to do with all that data is another matter. Computers might aggregate and analyze the data, but that someone needs to figure out what it means and of what use this data is. You could be something like an actuary, someone who determines risk in a given situation. Other jobs will morph into new versions of themselves. We will still have doctors, but some will specialize in telesurgery, guiding machines over a long distance. We may get there before the robots do the surgery on their own. In one of the articles I read researching this show, I also saw something listed in jobs of the future as a food chemist. This person would use 3D printing technology along with chef training to design and implement the technology that will allow us to print meals at home or maybe even on the moon. Uh, Perhaps you could take any job and add a tech twist or a personal human touch to it, or incorporate whatever is new in the world into an old job. Maybe that's your career. Some jobs also exist in a niche that probably won't be economically viable for robots, such as private music teachers, something I've done myself. It is a flooded market, to use it as an example. There are a lot of teachers out there, but at least I don't see it being totally replaced by artificial intelligence. Another area you will see jobs available in the future for humans is in areas like healthcare, mental health, elder care, and teaching. One reason jobs will be available here is because that there is a shortage now. What we seem to have is a distribution problem. Some places, for various reasons, don't have enough applicants for these jobs, perhaps due to economic conditions in the area or prevailing attitudes toward the people doing those jobs. We need to figure out a way to draw people to wherever jobs need to be done. What would it take to attract a teacher to Detroit instead of Santa Barbara? What would it take to keep a mental health counselor from burning out from working in the state juvenile justice system? In the past, I've heard nursing is a good career because there is a shortage of nurses. What you don't hear is that shortage is primarily in geriatrics and places wrought with poverty, and those jobs often don't appeal to the people who are trained to do them. How do we make a nursing job in geriatrics feel as worthwhile to someone as a job looking for a job in pediatrics? Humans will need to do these jobs for the foreseeable future, but we need to make some adjustments to fill the holes that exist now. Creativity and adaptability will be an enormous part of having a job in the future, and it's really part of having a job now, depending on what kind of a job you do. Your career may change many, many times. The days, if you, depending on how old you might be, your father, your grandfather, may have had a job somewhere for 30 or 40 years. They did the same thing. It was a career. That notion has been gradually diminishing for a while now, and I think definitely among those who consider themselves millennials, um, almost see the idea of a career that you do for your entire adult life to be sort of an antiquated notion. You need the ability to change careers quickly, to change jobs quickly, to adapt to new situations. Sometimes the technology that's changing your industry may happen slowly, or sometimes it may happen very quickly. And if you learn how to learn, if you learn the skills to be creative and flexible, and you can adapt to a new job more quickly. Um, Sometimes in the past, we've had job training programs for people who lose their jobs, lose their industries, um, and education is essential, and re-educating someone to do a different job is essential. But you have to be very careful that you're not training them to do a new job that doesn't exist or won't exist, 2 years after you've taught them how to do it. Change can be very rapid. And I think there is a lack in our education system for creativity. We've been teaching to the test for so long, um, we're not really allowing the flexibility of mind to be fully realized. And this creativity, I'm not just saying this because I'm a musician and I want the arts to be taught in school, although I do want the arts to be taught in school. I think it's a valuable tool in this process, but every kind of job can need creativity, engineering and medicine, science. At some point, they all can be creative jobs, and those innovations that create new jobs come from the people who are using their creativity to the fullest. Um, that is something I would like to see changed in our education system. And I would like to see that education spread all over the world too, not just for the people who can afford it. And I don't think it's unreasonable to have this kind of education at all ages. Young children are extremely adaptable. You've ever seen, there's 4-year-olds that know how to use smartphones now. So there's nothing that's too difficult for anyone at a very young age. So let's spend a little more time with that creativity, with that flexibility, with that innovation idea at all ages, and spend less time rehashing things over and over again. I was a fairly good student, but I do seem to recall often being somewhat bored by hearing the same things over and over and over again. Um, Information is out there if you need to look it up, and memorizing all kinds of dates and names and places and formulas and things like that might not be as important as learning how to learning critical thinking skills, applying logic to any situation, um, knowing a mathematical formula off the top of your head, um, may be slightly less important than recognizing the situation where you will need that formula. All right, I guess that's my soapbox for the week. So, in conclusion, there are jobs out there for humans to do, and there will be for many decades. Um, if you are young and you're listening in and wondering what you might be doing in college, what you should study, what you should do, should you go to a tech school, do some research out there. Check out the links in the show. There are jobs that you're going to be able to do, and you're going to be paid decently for them. Um, Mostly in technology. A lot of programming, a lot of engineering, teaching, all that stuff. If you're a little older like me, go back to school if you can, I guess, if you're in a career or in an industry that is slowly disappearing. Uh, if you can't afford to go back to school, like some of us, I can understand that very well. Best of luck to you, I guess. At least you can know that our new robot overlords will probably need some servants of some kind. I'm definitely keeping my tuxedo clean for my future in robo butlering. All right, folks, that's the show for the week. Thank you for joining me. Don't lose hope. We will figure something out. That's another reason I do this show. I want this stuff in your head so you can be thinking about it and pressuring your elected officials and whatnot to deal with this situation before it becomes a crisis. And again, thanks for listening in. Come visit us online at panfuture.org. Email me, Sean, SEAN, at panfuture.org. Find us on Facebook and Twitter. Drop me an email, a comment on the show, whatever you would like. Send me ideas for shows or ideas for interviews. I'm always looking for that kind of stuff. And if you would like to help out with the show, there's a donate button on the website, or you can just drop me an email and I will let you know how you can help offset a little bit of the cost of doing this. All right, everybody, be better today than you were yesterday. Be better tomorrow than you are today. And I will talk to you again in the future.